I don't know that I ever thought I really had a choice in the matter. It was really put to me at a very young age. I think my parents did a really excellent job in terms of setting that as an expectation. They were talking about college and the importance of college from as early as I can remember. And I can remember having a lot of angst in high school, thinking about, would I get into college and where would I go? And it really was presented as, if you want to have a good life and if you want to have different possibilities and get to explore and branch out and do everything that had been presented to me as wonderful, then it was going to be necessary to go to college. My parents both did, again, an extraordinary job, but in very different ways. My father, even in elementary school and middle school, would take me to college campuses. We'd go to places like Brown University in Rhode Island or Boston University and just walk around. He wanted me to see what the environment was. We'd sit in on classes. My dad was in advertising and had lots of different kinds of contacts. And so was really able to get us acclimated and see that this was something that was possible for us. My mother also was really instrumental in encouraging me to go. I think one of the singular gifts that she gave me was the fact that she seemed to believe that I could do anything, and she never allowed me to undersell myself. There were earlier points I developed bad habits of being sort of self-disparaging, or saying that I couldn't do something or something was too hard, and she would never allow that to to be the final word of the day. And if she didn't have the information that I needed to get from point A to point B, either she would make sure she connected me with somebody who did have the information, or she would let me know that she was fully confident that I was able to figure it out. One day I was walking down the hall and I saw a poster on the wall describing, well, the poster said, "Have you ever been labeled?" And it was a colorful poster. And it said, "Have you ever been labeled?" And it said creative, artistic, sensitive. There were all these adjectives. I was like, oh, that sounds that sounds kind of like me. And it had one of those business reply things you tear off, and the poster was for Antioch College. And I tore it off and went to my next class, and as fate would have it, the friend of mine I was sitting next to saw the little thing that I had, and she said, "Oh, Antioch, my mother grew up in Yellow Springs, or my grandmother grew up in Yellow Springs, where Antioch is located. You would love that school." I said, "Oh, okay," and I just filled it out, put this thing in the mail, and I forgot about it. About 3 or 4 weeks later, I'm there watching TV, should have been doing homework, but I was watching television, and I get this call, and it's someone from Antioch College saying, "We'd love to have you come out for a prospective student weekend." And I was like, "Mom, can I go?" And that was like the first my mother really heard me talk about being interested and excited about any particular college, and she was like, "By all means." And so got on a plane and went out to Antioch and just kind of fell in love. Kind of fell in love with it. That was really the only college that I applied to, and got in, and that was my selection process. I often think if someone hadn't thought to hang that poster up, it could have been a very different story, because I really was so discouraged about whether or not I'd be able to get into college, I might not have applied anywhere otherwise. It was a culture shock. I grew up in New York City, out in Hollis, Queens, but we spent a lot of time in Manhattan and doing everything that there is to do in a big city. And Antioch, where I went to college, is in the middle of Ohio. There's lots of cornfields. And Antioch was a small school, just under 500 students at that time. So we were really isolated. And this is before internet, before email, before cell phones, or any of that stuff. So when I was out there, you really were just there and just cut off from everything else. I think, there was a place in town you could get the New York Times, but it was already 3 or 4 days old by the time you got there. So that was definitely a shock to me. It was a huge culture shock, and I was used to being around, different people, all different kinds of people. Used to being around white people, but I wasn't used to being around white people who had never had any experience being around black people. And that was a very different thing than I had encountered up until that point. Just people who had no frame of reference, no cultural awareness, whatsoever, would say horrendously offensive things, sometimes intentionally, but sometimes just not meaning to, just not knowing any better. So that first year was a struggle, but it also was a time of great opportunity. I was meeting people from all across the country for the first time. We had a number of international students, and we were kind of all in this environment together. It's the first time you have like all this freedom. There's no one telling you what to do or what time to come home, and just all these things are wide open. You have to negotiate your interpersonal relationships, and all that good stuff. So I really, looking back on it, it was definitely a period of growth. And some of it, for me, when I think about it, adversity was around what it meant to do college level work. I had gone to a really good high school, so my basic levels of proficiency were there. That wasn't the issue, but I hadn't learned how to push myself. Really dig in and push myself to do the best possible job on an assignment. And here I had teachers that was fortunate to have teachers that would not accept work from me that was less than excellent. Would give me back the paper and say, you gotta take another shot at this. Take another shot. I know that you can do it. Take another shot. And sometimes I didn't understand what they wanted. And it was doing the work of seeing your professors as a resource. That there are things that are explicit, that are on the syllabus, and then there's all the implicit stuff, all the stuff that's not spoken, that makes college a mystery for students. And so I learned to kind of use, again, the professors as resources, and other classmates to kind of try to unpack this stuff. My current role is as Assistant Vice President for Institutional Diversity. I also teach in the College of Ed, but particularly in that diversity role, we're always saying to students that, part of the opportunity of being in a campus environment is that you get to be with people who are very different than you are. And if you spend 4 to 5 years at this institution and you only stay with people who look like you, or from the place you're from, who hold your same views, your same beliefs, if you go through this whole time doing that, you've really done yourself a huge disservice. And we understand that there's comfort in staying with people like you, there's even a time and a place to do that, you know, to be affirmed in who you are, but you can't stay there. You got to go out and you got to engage with the rest of the campus community. You have to seek out those opportunities that are going to challenge you and challenge your beliefs. And it doesn't mean that you have to change your beliefs or change who you are. In fact, if you encounter somebody who believes something entirely different than you do, you know, it might, in the end, help to kind of strengthen and sharpen your own beliefs. You understand what you believe in and why when you take the time to kind of learn what the other, you know, opinion is. And I find we're just at a point as a society where people are less and less willing to do that. So that broader conversation about keeping yourself open, and that's a lifelong press to keep yourself open, to be willing to engage across differences. I mean, that's the thing I find myself communicating more than anything else in the work that I do, and it's directly tied to just the sets of experiences that I've had along the way. I think you know, my advice to first-gen students would be to really fully embrace this opportunity. You know, and it really is a wonderful thing that has happened if you find yourself at any college campus, but it really is a wonderful thing that you find yourself at UK. I've been here for 2 years and have just been blown away by, first and foremost, the students. We've got incredible students from so many different backgrounds, so many different places, very interesting, very passionate people. We've got great staff, great faculty that are invested in students being successful. Great academic support. It's getting better all the time. And so I would encourage students to just embrace this experience and really get everything they possibly can, you know, out of it. I would encourage students that, first-generation students, to seek out support in many different forms, you know, academic support in particular. That there's no reason, and we see this unfortunately a lot with the men, that there's something about how men are socialized in society that we're very slow to ask, you know, for help. And oftentimes, by the time we do ask for help, it's too late in the semester to recover. So we see a lot of sort of crash and burn kind of situations that could have been avoided if people had let us know, students had let us know earlier that there was an issue. So, you know, whether it's CARES or SSS or going to the study, or, you know, working with friends, you know, that you really take advantage of the support that's here.